Hello, good afternoon to everyone. Very welcome to this last conference in Job Barcelona Digital Edition, first time. I'm very happy to introduce you to Doug Flatchett, who's coming from ESEI Business School. He's going to present a conference titled Economic Winter is Coming, Starting a New Business in Difficult Times. Doug has an executive MBA with focus on entrepreneurship from Flanders Business School and Kellogg School of Management in Chicago. He is currently working on a doctorate in behavior economics in Barcelona, but he never let schooling get in the way of his education. So he's passionate about learning all the time, and he's going to share with us how to overcome these difficult moments, building up an initiative, no? Being an entrepreneurship. Thank you very much, Doug, for being here, for participating in Job Barcelona. Whenever you like, I ask you to tell us from where are you connecting from. And if you would like to arise any questions to Doug, you can write them down in our YouTube channel. And we are going to ask Doug at the end of the session, the last 15 minutes, more or less. Thank you very much. Thank you, Doug, whenever you like.
Thank you very much. Yes, so hello, hi, greetings from Caldes de Strac. It's a little village just past Mataró, where I'm logging in from my weekend house. I would have preferred to be on site because I still like the physical contact of on-site meetings better. But well, we do what we can in the times we have, of course. I'm still very happy to be here. Regarding my introduction, I would like to nuance that a little bit. I still consider myself first and foremost an entrepreneur. So I've started several businesses along the way, some of them which have been very successful, some of which have been massive failures. And now I spend most of my time guiding the different ventures I guide or I invest in, or the ones I run myself. So the academic side kind of comes with that, or was built along the way, as you say, in a philosophy of a growth mentality, but it's not my core identity. Which brings me to the first question I want to ask the audience here. You hopefully have talked to a lot of companies in these couple of days, and you hopefully had a lot of job offers. And the question you are now asking yourself is this really you? Is this really you, the job they're offering, the role? Do you identify with the role and what comes with it? Do you identify with the life they are offering you? In the same way, I want to ask you, for if you came to this talk, I imagine you're already working on a project, or you kind of would like to be an entrepreneur maybe, or you have something in the back of your head or a voice talking to you. Is it really you to be an entrepreneur? That's the first question. What do you need, in my opinion, to be an entrepreneur? You need a little bit of risk appetite. You need to be willing to take risks and not to play it safe. It's going to be safer to take the job than to start your own business. But of course, you need a bit of ambition. Starting your own business, the upside is much bigger. The downside is much bigger, and the upside is much bigger. It's kind of like taking the job you were offered is like living your life on Prozac. If you don't take the Prozac, you'll have very high highs and very low lows. If you take the job, you're selling your time to the highest bidder, and they get all the upside. So you have capped the top and you've capped the bottom, and you've sold a large part of your life to whoever pays you the most money, or whoever gave you the best offer at the time. So is that really you? The other thing you need, of course, is creativity and vision. You need to see something which other people maybe don't see. It needs to be a use case, a solution, somewhere, something you think you can solve and build a company around. So that is a question I want to ask you. If you give your time away to the highest bidder you met on this conference here, is that really you? Or are you going to wake up one day with 2 cars, 3 annoying kids, and a hole in your chest where your soul should be? Now, if you think you should be an entrepreneur, then you'll have people telling you that this is not the right time to start a business. Well, I strongly disagree. Yes, winter is coming, economic winter is coming, and we're going to have another recession, possibly worse than the one in 2008. Yet, this is a very good time to start a business. I'll explain why. When the when the markets are booming and when the economy is stable, the opportunities don't shift so much. It is when there is a cataclysmic crisis that there's the tectonic plates of our economy, they move around very fast, and all these new opportunities arise. So when things change quickly, like they have been changing quickly this year, incredibly quickly, it seems like the world keeps on speeding up. This means a lot of new opportunities arise. And on the other side, if there is a financial crisis, then the markets aren't flushed with money. Not everybody is throwing money at the different opportunities, and uh, there's more chance for you as a young entrepreneur to get into the game. I know what you're thinking, but there is no financial crisis. The financial markets are booming. Um, there are no dried up capital markets. And yes, you're right. Right now, there is just an economic crisis and not yet a financial crisis. Um, but the oldest joke on Wall Street is that this time it's different, meaning that this time the markets will go up forever because the ECB and the Fed will keep on pumping money into the system. I feel like they blasted all their ammunition in the first 5 minutes of the war. And the war is going to be long, and they're going to have no more tools, monetary tools, to pump up the markets after a while. So there is an abundance. The markets are in a trance, an orgy of abundance. But you don't want to be caught with your dick in your hand when the music stops and the lights go on. With which I mean, don't count on the money being there after 1 or 2 years. If you already have a venture that's going forward and you have some traction, you can probably raise money now. But after that, it's no longer going to be possible, most likely. So what do you have to do? Well, you have to bootstrap. Sometimes we say bootstrapping is the lost art. Bootstrapping means doing something with very little money, building a company on a shoestring. When we say bootstrapping is a lost art, we're not being very fair, especially not in Spain, where a lot of entrepreneurs are still bootstrapping everything they do, which is good. I'm a big fan of bootstrapping, and I think you should get really good at it. So it's kind of how to manage cash flow when you have neither cash nor flow. It's all about lean methodologies. Most of you, I imagine, have heard about lean methodologies before. It came originally from the production environment, but is now, as in the entrepreneurial world, very common concept where you try to do things with very little money and you try to learn information about the market, learn information about your customers as fast as possible. So it's sometimes they would call it to be lean and mean. I prefer to say be lean, keen, and seen. Um, so first, let's talk about which kind of business we should be starting. What kind of business should you be starting right now, which not? You can start any kind of business. I cannot advise you on all of them, of course. I'm from a tech background. Um, but definitely there are things which, obviously, if you turned on the TV for 5 minutes this year, you got to stay away from. Basically, the rule of thumb is if you need your customer to walk into your establishment, it's a no-go. So no brick and mortar, no retail, no hosteleria, none of that. So as always, I advise technology. And then in technology, there's of course different things you can do. Hardware is really, really hard. If you're a great engineer, good, you can maybe do something. We'll get back to that later. But the economies of scale needed to create a hardware product are massive. And the competition is very, very tough. So in order to be able to do something from a hardware side, it's a very long shot. So I would also advise against it. Software, of course, is better. Software, you need less economies of scale. You can have a small team that solves a problem very well. But of course, nobody sells software anymore. Everything is a service. So whatever your business is, you should be offering a service and probably a subscription service, a recurring payment. Um, the, the reason why everything is becoming a service and everything is becoming SaaS, IaaS, PaaS, sharing economy, because the transaction cost has been going down so much. It's much cheaper now to create a transaction. Before you would rent a car, you'd have to go to like a company that would take an hour of your time to do some paperwork. Now you have an app and you take the car and you leave it. And the transaction cost, not only the money, but the time it takes, is much better. We have all the hardware we need in our pocket. You just need to build a service on top of that. And that service can be doing asset optimization, like cars, like apartments, like any other asset you can think of. So the opportunity to find, that's up to you. Whatever you see around you that you think, look, I think there's an opportunity here. Think if you can turn it into a service, preferably a subscription service, and go ahead. Now, don't worry about perfection. You probably heard that perfection is the enemy of getting things done. Worry about learning and about visibility. So first, you want to learn from your customers how you can, what they need, how you can solve their problem. And once you feel like you've done that, you need to get visibility. You need to get out there, get a lot of customers to see your product. So once we've decided that you want to be an entrepreneur, that you have an idea and you have some vision around this idea, then the problem is you don't have any money, and there's probably not going to be any money markets. So you need to spend some money before you can make some money. That's generally what they say, but it's not necessarily true. So there's kind of three ways to fix that. There's what looking forward, looking backwards, and looking sideways. So whether we're looking forward, we're looking backwards, or we're looking sideways, you need to be very good at telling your story, at selling your story, and have contagious enthusiasm around your business. You need to be really, really good at convincing people about your business. So the first thing you can do is pull revenue forward. So pull money forward. Get paid now instead of later. Very simple example, take pre-orders. About 4 years ago, Tesla was nearly bankrupt and they wanted to start the biggest factory they've ever started to produce the Tesla Model 3. So what do? They set up a simple website to take pre-orders. They set up the website and they had 400,000 pre-orders at €1,000 each, which put them at 400 million in the bank within a week. And on top of that, they had about 20 billion in order books, which means with that you can go to a more classical credit institution and you can say, look, I have these orders already. I just need a bit more capital to build this factory, because they need a lot more capital actually. Now, you don't need to be as big as Tesla to do this. And another example is a friend of mine, another kite surfer, who wanted to make an MP3 player for kite surfing. So he looked on Alibaba and he found a good MP3 player. He designed a branding for it, but he wasn't sure. In order to get these things produced, he needed to produce like 1,000 of them. He wasn't sure if he wanted to do that. So he set up the website, he took some pre-orders, and he would only order them as soon as he had enough pre-orders. So he would actually be selling them in pre-orders before he actually started making them. This is perfectly legal as long as you're honest about it, and as long as if it doesn't work out, you give people their money back, of course. More structured ways to do pre-orders is, of course, crowdfunding. If you're not familiar with it, Google it, but I guess most of you have seen it before. Basically, crowdfunding is a website where you do some kind of pre-order kind of deals. It is similar to pre-orders on your own website, but you can generate a little bit more traffic there maybe. And the clue is also that you find out whether anybody cares about this. If you set up a crowdfunding campaign and nobody pre-orders, then you know you shouldn't be investing money in building this. Another thing you can do in order to get this going, of course, you need to offer people something. You need to give them a reason to pre-order and not to wait till we get there. If you're doing B2B, meaning if you're dealing with businesses, talk about strategic partnerships. Talk about how you're going to work together on the long run and how they're going to be the spearhead of your organization. If you talk in B2C, you can talk about early bird deals. You can talk about limited edition, signature edition, which Tesla also had. Okay, moving on to the second thing is pushing expenses backwards. Again, you need to be good at selling your story. Um, Sometimes we talk about sweat equity. Equity are the shares in the company. Sweat equity is shares in the company you get from sweating, from working. So you can have people work for you without getting paid. You promise them equity in the company. Of course, for that to be worth anything, people need to believe in your dream. You need to be good at explaining the dream, seeing the vision, and bringing it across. The other thing you can do with contractants is revenue share deals. If you have a technical supplier of part of your product, you can say, look, we see a big market here. We have access to the market. We have the solution around it. Let's build it, and you get a cut of the revenue, 20% of the revenue, something like that, which means you don't have to pay anything upfront. You'll pay it if the revenue comes in. It means they'll take a little bit of the risk. They'll want more upside. So if things work really well, then they get bigger share of the revenue, or bigger share of than they would if you would just have paid them. But you can definitely find players willing to do that, especially in times of crisis when everybody's struggling to fill their plans, workloads, so on. People often talk about an MVP, but MVP somehow ends up being a really big thing. I hear MVPs for an app of 100,000 euros. Come on, guys. MVP is a minimum viable product. It's the minimal possible version you can push out there to see if anybody wants it. Let's put the minimal back in the MVP and really make minimal products. Then you can also fake it till you make it, as they say. Did you know that MS-DOS, the first software Bill Gates sold on a big scale, was sold without him having it? I think he sold it to, I forgot who it was, IBM or Xerox or something like that. But he didn't actually have it at the moment he sold it. He said, I have this software. It's nearly ready, but it wasn't ready at all. He hadn't made it yet. If you know what you're doing and if you know your thing, then make the packaging already. Present it, kind of like Rivian is doing now with their electrical pickup trucks. And the last trick is negative working capital, meaning pay your suppliers late, have very little inventory, and have customers pay quickly. If you have negative working capital, as your turnover goes up, you create more capital from operation without it being actual profit. It's just working capital. All right, so then the third place to look is to your sides. You should, whatever you're doing in the future, it's not going to be an island on its own. Most of the businesses now are very tightly woven into a fabric of the ecosystem around it. In the world of tomorrow, many companies have very unclear lines in between them. You also have unclear lines between you and your employees, and there is not strict four walls and your companies within that, which means whatever you're thinking of doing, there are companies in that ecosystem which will benefit from you doing that. So they can help you get started. They can get you resources, maybe not necessarily cash. Cash is always the hardest thing to get, but resources like server capacity, access to customers, workplace, and so on. So how did I start my first company? I was 21 years old, as young as many of you in the audience, I guess, or maybe even younger. And this was in 2004 in the city of Leuven, university city in Belgium. And everybody started having internet, and most of the time it didn't work. And then we had a lot of students who knew how to figure that out, mostly with trial and error, and could fix it. So we handed out flyers in the residential areas around the city, which were mostly elderly people, saying, okay, I printed out these flyers in the copy shop of the university. It cost me, I think, 20 cents per page or something like that. I printed out 8 per page. I cut them myself. So I had 16, 8 rows, 16 per page. I handed them into the mailboxes myself. People would call, and we didn't have we didn't have a website. Well, we had like a minor website, but we didn't have a ticketing system, which we built afterwards. Cost some money. So we just had an Excel sheet, and we had a BB forum, like a free forum, where each ticket would become a post, and then the technicians would have to reply on the post, I bid on this ticket, and then they would get the ticket. The technicians would have to pay upfront in order to be able to take tickets. So they would pay me a commission for the tickets, and then they would go do the intervention. This company still exists, by the way. We did around 60,000 interventions in around 20,000 homes over the years. And it was started with a few €100, not more. So stop trying to magically predict what the customer wants. There's a trick to this. You can ask them what they want. Go out and talk to them. The first thing you should be doing is to be talking to the customers. And now is the time to plant your seed. I know winter is coming, but to plant the seeds in the winter means that by spring, your plants are growing and you have a head start on everybody else. And if your company works out, your company will be booming at the same time the economies are booming, and then you will have a world of opportunity. From now onwards, well, from maybe a year onwards, the economy will keep on getting gradually better, which means you organically will be growing already without doing anything. So I'm here on behalf of ESEI Business School. Question, should you start studying a business school in order to start a business? Well, the quick answer is no. There is no need for you to study anymore in order to start a business. The longer answer is maybe. If you have something which is more complex, or you feel like you're not quite ready yet, then maybe yes. It's kind of like mind the gap. If you ever taken the metro in London, there's always a little sign that says mind the gap, mind the gap. Well, you need to mind the gap of where you are and what you need in order to get there. If you turn the question around, should you go to do an MBA if you don't have a business ID? I would say no, don't do an MBA if you don't have a business ID. It's a waste of money. Do an MBA if you have a business ID to work on, because while you're doing an MBA, you have access to a lot of consultants, advisors, teachers, the whole network, which is going to help you think about it, your fellow students. And this period, whether your company ends up working out or not, is gonna allow you to develop the business further, and it's going to allow you to understand and learn a lot more, both for your business and for your career further on. So those are my tips to start your business. Basically, remember to think first, is it you? Rats will be rats. You can stay in the rat race. Horses will be horses. But there is only one career that promises unicorns. With that, we're opening the floor for questions.
Great, Doug. Thank you very much. Thanks so much for this inspiring presentation. Thanks for sharing your own experience too with us. I have a question about explaining again what you were selling when you do your first entrepreneurship project in Belgium. There's something that someone has not understood. You have done your leaflets, and then what did you?
So basically, it was we would solve computer problems. So any kind of computer problem you would have, we would send an IT student to come and solve this problem. Typically, it was my internet connection doesn't work, because this was when internet connection was a new thing, and most of the time it didn't work right away. It's a long time ago. I'm really old. This was in the times of Windows 98, Windows Millennium, Windows XP. And there was always some kind of problem. You would plug in the cable, it doesn't work. So a student would come to your house and they would make it work. And then you would pay the student something like 20, 30, 40 euros, of which a part would come to Compudoc, our organization, and the rest is for the student.
I see. And when you are talking about the question of the subscription service and this periodicity, in which type of business are you thinking about?
Actually, I think you can turn everything into a subscription service. It sounds absurd, but you can if you think about it. For example, they used to say a car cannot be a subscription service; it's too expensive. An apartment cannot be a subscription service, but yes, it can be. You could have some kind of Airbnb where you pay a monthly fee and you have certain credits to go traveling so much as you want, and you don't have to negotiate each time. You just have your account and you can go there. It's kind of what the office sharing things now do. They have well, we work, but they're kind of in bad papers, but Regus, which is still quite active in Barcelona. You have a subscription, you pay 100 euros per month, and you can use any office you want. You can use it on Diagonal, you can use it in Poblenou, you can use it in the Gótico. Um, so anything you do can be turned into a subscription service. If you can find something nobody else has thought about yet, for example, a student of ESEI, we were working last year on Travlix, which is a travel subscription service. You pay 50 euros per month or 70 euros per month, and you get 4 trips or 2 trips per year, city trips to different cities in Europe, and it can be a surprise package. So you just have your subscription running, and then you say the dates you're available, and you'll get tickets in the mail and flights to somewhere.
Oh, I see. But also, there's another question about the business angels, because I suppose that this type of projects, you need to do a lot of the investment, no, in technology to have the possibility to get to many customers and to develop a tool, a technological tool that permits you to do this kind of business, right? So, could you please explain this, and if you can explain a little bit the world of the business angels, if you know that world, no?
Yeah. Well, my argument today is to forget about the business angels, to forget about the VCs, pull your revenue forward and push your expenses backwards. So pay people with sweat equity and get people to take pre-orders. If you do that first and you get some traction, even if later on you want to scale quicker, you might get involved with business angel or VCs. If you have some traction to show them already, your negotiation is going to be much easier. If you go up to a business angel or a VC and say, I have a genius idea, but I haven't done anything yet, they're not going to want to listen to you. It's 10% idea and it's 90% execution. So you have to be able to show, first of all, that you can execute, that you can bootstrap, that you can build something from nothing with whatever resources you have. There's before business angels, you should talk to the 3 F's, which is friends, families, and fools, who will give you the first few thousand euros you need to get started. And then later on, if you have traction, you can talk to the business angels. But if there's only one business angel or one VC willing to fund you, then you're probably too early. By the time you're getting funding, they should be fighting over your business.
Oh, yes.
Ideally.
So, and what is your do you have any other experiences about entrepreneurship after the what you have explained in Belgium? Have you continued doing more and more
Yes.
new initiatives?
So I started a fast food chain that was going to crowdsource empanadas. I lived in Argentina when I was a kid as well, so I really liked empanadas. So we set up a crowdsourcing website where everybody could create their empanada recipes, and then we had a restaurant in Gracia to sell these empanadas, which we had for about 4 years, but it didn't really work, so we shut that down. I also started a marketplace for social media managers. So for small and medium-sized businesses, kind of the business model of Compudoc, but then applied for somebody to run your Instagram accounts, to run your Facebook accounts for the small businesses in Barcelona. We ran that in beta for about 6-7 months, but then decided to shut it down. We also didn't achieve what we wanted to achieve. Then I'm co-investor in a company that does medical ed tech, which is most of my time now. So we create software solutions that medical universities in Belgium and Netherlands use, and this business is booming. So this is taking up most of my active time now. And then another project which I'm advising is Reusable, you might have seen them in Poblenou. They are trying to use reusable plastic bowls instead of plastic bowls, kind of like set up a circuit for reusable bowls. If you see them, you should definitely try it out. But they were a bit unlucky with the pandemic, of course.
Oh, I see. And what is that? What is the brand of this reusable
It's called
balls?
it's called Reusable.
Reusable.
Reusable, yes.
And
It's
we
a com-
can find this in on the internet.
you
Called
can, yes.
the website is reusable.com or
Yes, I think so. Let me
yeah,
check. Reuse.
great.
This is not my company. It's a company of a friend of mine who I'm helping out.
Oh, great.
Reuse.
Reusable.
Yes, reusable.com.
Great. We are going to check. And what about uncertainly and so
Uncertainty.
how do you manage, because if you have someone, your parents or your family, you have a supportive part behind you to try to overcome, to try to find out the way an income for living, then it's easier, no? But
Yes,
if you don't have
yes.
this, how you
Uh-huh.
manage the risk and
Uh-huh.
and also the fairness, no?
Well, if you can, depends what age you are. If I think a lot of the people in the audience may be students or just graduating students, and maybe living with their parents at the moment. If you're living with your parents, stay with your parents for a little while longer while you start your first company, just to make sure. If you're not, and if you need to pay the bills, if you have kids and you need to make sure you can provide for your family, then I would advise you to start as a side hustle, meaning you keep your main job, but after hours you start your business and you try to see if you can get some traction. Really, if you have a normal job, you need to work 40 hours a week and you have 30 dia hábiles de vacaciones per year, then you can easily start a company in all the free time you have. You need to be willing to do it, of course. If you, after 8 hours of work, you don't feel like working more, well.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. But I think you can manage very well this uncertainty, no? So
Yeah,
it's a it's a skill that you have to know to develop and to
it comes
have.
with the first thing I said as well. It's is it you know, do you have this risk appetite? Do you prefer to have a moderate, comfortable life without a lot of risk, or do you want to have a life with very high highs and very low lows? And as an entrepreneur, unless you're lucky from the first time, you probably will have hard times along the way. This is a given. It's never always easy. I mean, it's gonna happen. But if you're willing to do that, if you have this character in you, then you should. If it troubles you from the start that you're not gonna be sure that you have a steady income every month, then take that job offer.
Mm-hmm. And what about the skills? What do you think that there will be the skills that you have to to have, no, in order to become an entrepreneurship?
I think a lot of the skills you need are more soft skills than hard skills. Hard skills you will learn along the way. Soft skills you will learn too, but one of the first things you need to do is to become really good at listening. You need to listen to the customer. You need to listen to everybody you talk to. You need to make sure that you don't keep your grand business ideas secrets. You need to talk to everybody who wants to talk to you about this business. You talk to them, and you listen very carefully without or with as little as possible judgment, and try to figure out what people really need, what people really want, and what people are willing to spend some money on. And then you need to be good at selling it, at telling it, at explaining your story, convincing employees, convincing suppliers, convincing customers. You're always selling something.
And what about the question about sweat equity? I mean, This is asking somebody if I had understood. This is, bueno, explain this because it's not clear from the audience. Sweat
Okay.
equity means trust, that they trust you and they
So
give you time.
I have an amazing idea, right? We're gonna do something a new business idea. I can't think of something right now, but I need 2 developers to work on this for about 6 months. And I think the business could be really big and powerful. So I find 2 developers that are capable and can afford to work for 6 months, at least part-time on this. And I tell them, let's split the company 3 ways, or you get 25% each, or we get 33% each. And they get equity, which is shares for their sweat. So it's sweat equity.
Mm-hmm.
And I work for free as well, of course. I can't be paid if they're not paid, of course. So we all work for free for a while until we generate revenue. Once you have traction, once you have more credibility of this working, it becomes a bit easier.
Yeah, and what we see with the initiatives that you have, the ways you have shown here about having the possibility of this investing, no, this having the possibility to develop the ideas, is based on trust, based on integrity. No, it's something that it's
Absolutely.
really
Yeah.
really the focus. No, that you don't trick, that you
Yeah.
are trustable, you are worthy, trusty. No, from your environment, your community.
Absolutely. Your reputation is, I think, your biggest asset. You can have ventures that go well, you can have ventures that go badly, but if you cheat people, this goes around. Even in a big world, people know each other, people find each other. Whatever vertical you're in or whatever industry you're in, people talk and people know each other, and your reputation will precede you. If you're in an ecosystem like Barcelona, it's not that big an ecosystem. If you cheating people, this will spread, and you'll be out quite quickly. But if you have a reputation of being a visionary, hardworking, and very honest and straightforward,
Mm-hmm.
then this will also precede you. So yeah, if that answers your question.
Yes, yes, sure. Thank you very much. And there's another question about ESEI, as you are professor there. Are you teaching about entrepreneurship? Could you please explain the possibilities of being trained and prepared for being an entrepreneur, to develop ideas? If somebody is very creative, somebody that doesn't want to be managed by anyone. So
Yeah.
do you have the
So
can you explain the training offers from
yeah.
ESEI to become entrepreneurship?
Yes, so there's different careers you can study there. I don't know them all by heart. I'm not in the academics department. I teach there indeed, and I teach topics around entrepreneurship, business plans, and digital entrepreneurship. And the idea is that there's no exams or anything like that. It's all project-based learning. So either they give you a project, the professor gives you a project, and you work on that, which is interesting, but it's not as interesting as if you have your own project. So that's what I was saying earlier. I don't advise everybody to go do an MBA, but if you have a project in mind and you see a gap between what you know and what you need, or you see the opportunity, then combine the two things, and then you will spend the whole time in your MBA working on your project. And then you will get the advice from the different professors. You will have the different subjects all looking from the marketing perspective, looking from the innovation perspective, looking from the accounting perspective. How do you address this challenge? And then other students who don't have their own project will also be working on your project. Again, you have free help for a year and a half or something like that.
This is a great idea, huh? Really. And we have another question here. This is thank you for your presentation. I like it very much, and would like to ask about your point of view. I have a business idea, but I feel a little bit lost. It's about an intelligent product, but I don't know where to ask for help. Can you
Okay.
give me a tip to make the first step?
Okay. Um, Yeah, you can reach out to me on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is my preferred channel of communication. I'm happy to listen to your ID. It depends very much on what the product does. Intelligent product could be a lot of things. I'm not sure if I know what you mean. Depending on that, you can try to find people in the know. Now, the most important thing here to remember is don't keep it a secret. Nobody's going to steal your ID. Remember, it's 90% execution, 10% ID. So go talk to the people most likely to have use of this ID and explain their ID to them. There's some pieces of the puzzle you have in your head, but there's a lot of pieces of the puzzles which you don't have in your head. Other people have them. So you want to put them together and see if it still makes sense. Then if it does, then it's likely that one of those people will be pushing you to start and might even help you out with funding or with resources.
This is another thing that it's quite adapt. You have said that if you have an idea that you think that it's very creative, an idea that's innovative, you have to share it. You have to ask for feedback. You have to explain it,
Absolutely.
and having no worries about being copied or no.
No, well, there's exceptions. If you find out how to turn lead into gold, then you should only tell me, nobody else. But in all other IDs, it's way more gets lost by the lack of execution than the quality of the ID. And you overestimate how much of it you already know. Whatever the industry is, I do this too. You get into an industry you've never been before and you think, I have an idea. It's like this and that. You get in there, you start talking to people, you start trying to do it and like, oh, wait, there's actually more to it. There's this thing and there's that thing. And you learn much more nuanced understanding of the industry. And then you might have to reshape it a little bit, or it might work, it might not work, but you need to learn all of this. And these people already know a lot. So you can talk to them. And if they think it's a good idea, if you talk to somebody at a big company that could use your idea, it's way more likely that they want you with the idea than they want you without the idea. Because if you come up with a genius idea, then people want to employ you anyway.
Mm-hmm. The thing is having the opportunity to get to arrive to that company, explain the idea, no?
Yeah.
No?
I think reach out to people directly. Reach out to people directly on a personal level. Know who you're talking to. If you send people spam mails or spam messages, they might not react. But if you find out, excuse me, if you find out who could be the one key figure in a big company that might be able to help you with this, then I would first research the person, find them on LinkedIn, and then send them a message where you first flatter them a bit. You say, hey, I read your article, I don't know, in that newspaper. I'm really I really think it's really great how you guys are trying to manage the COVID-19 situation at your company. You're an example to others. By the way, I have this question, and I would really love if you had 2 minutes of your time to advise me on this. So you first flatter, and then you ask for advice. Usually, people are vain. So if you flatter them and you ask them for advice, they want to help you.
This is a good tip. This is a good tip, Doug. So we have 1 more minute to conclude your presentation. I would like to thank you very much
Welcome.
for being here, for inspiring and for encouraging our candidates to become entrepreneurs. Could you please give like an inspirational message to our audience that concludes your presentation?
So yes, well, first of all, thank you very much for having me. It's an honor to be the closing speaker at a wonderful event. I hope to do it again, maybe in person next year. And yes, I think I don't know the quote exactly. There was a quote by Steve Jobs that said that the world becomes much more interesting. I'm paraphrasing. The world becomes much more interesting and powerful place once you realize that everything around you is made up by people who are no more intelligent than you are. So you have the right to make up the world of tomorrow.
Great. I think this is a great quote from Steve Jobs by Doug Fletcher. Thank you so much, Doug. Thank you so much for participating. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you. And to all our audience, thank you so much for being here, for attending our conferences here in Job Barcelona First Time Digital Edition. It has been a pleasure to share with you all these sessions with outstanding lecturers, outstanding companies that really cares, that really would like to encourage you to become best candidates and to give tips to enter to the world of the working world. No, thank you very much. See you in another occasion. Bye bye from Barcelona. Thank you. Bye, Jack.